Bolt fam, lock in for this one. Because today's got 4 pieces that can change the Chargers' chessboard without everyone realizing it in real time. One move comes into the building with straight-up pass rush DNA and a track record of sharpening monsters. Another name hits the market and could quietly become the seatbelt for Justin Herbert, but only if the money makes sense. Then there's a superstar being floated around this offseason, yeah, that kind of name, and I'm going to tell you why it might be a trap. And finally, there's a silent quarterback depth detail that could save an entire week if the league gets chaotic. Do you trust the plan, or do you want to push the chips in? And listen, hit that like button, subscribe, and ride with me. Because by the end, I'm circling back to the one thing that separates smart off-seasons from loud ones. You ever notice how some defenses just wake up mid-game? Pressure starts arriving a beat earlier, the quarterback starts looking the wrong way, and suddenly the whole flow flips. A lot of people call that talent. I don't. That's coaching. That's detail work drilled until it becomes instinct. And that's exactly why this Chargers hire might fly under the radar for anyone chasing headlines. But it could end up being one of the most dangerous upgrades we make all year. The team is bringing in Denzel Martin from the Steelers as the new assistant linebackers coach under Sean Spence. And before you shrug like, okay, another staff name, remember what Pittsburgh has been for nearly a decade: a pass rusher factory. TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig. Those dudes didn't turn into problems for offenses by accident. Martin's been in that lab since 2016. Through seasons, adjustments, roster turnover, working inside a system that turns 3rd and long into a death sentence. What it means for the Chargers is simple and brutal. We want consistent pressure without having to live on risky blitzes. When you improve hand usage, attack angles, and how guys read tackles, you get cheap sacks, the ones that don't rely on broken plays. That changes everything because quick pressure lets the secondary play more aggressive, and suddenly the whole defense looks faster than it actually is. Now here's where Bolt fam is going to split. Some of you are going to say, coaches don't sack quarterbacks. True. But coaches put the right guy in the right spot at the right time with the right move. Watt tied a sack record in a season, Highsmith jumped to a career year, Herbig turned into a weapon who can hurt you in multiple ways. I'm not saying we automatically copy-paste that into SoFi. I'm saying we're importing the method. The warning light, though? Method without the right pieces isn't a miracle. If the front office doesn't keep building depth and health on the edge, the impact has a ceiling. But if the rotation clicks, the AFC West is going to feel it. Because when Herbert gives you points and your defense starts closing games, you're not fighting for a spot. You're setting the tone. Think about how many games slipped because we didn't get off the field on 3rd and 8. One extra hurry per drive changes the scoreboard, changes the momentum, changes your season. If you can get that one through coaching without spending a fortune, you just found real value. And that leads straight into the next decision. Because if we're talking about winning on the margins, it starts with protecting QB1. There's a massive difference between chasing a savior and making a smart fix. Sometimes the right move isn't the one that trends on YouTube. It's the one that cleans up a silent problem that's been sabotaging your offense. Be honest, how many snaps did you watch Justin Herbert take a quick drop and already feel the pocket collapsing in his lap? How many plays died before the routes even had time to develop? That's why a name most people aren't talking about matters: James Daniels. Miami released Daniels less than a year after signing him to a 3-year, $24 million deal. On the surface, you might see that and think, red flag. But context changes everything. 3 snaps into the 2025 season, he suffered a pectoral injury, hit IR, and never came back. That's not he fell off. That's brutal luck. And it creates an opportunity, because a 28-year-old lineman with a solid track record can suddenly be available for way less than his true value. When you look at Daniels' history, there's a reason to pay attention. He's been a serviceable right guard, consistently holding up in pass pro. And interior pressure is the worst kind of pressure, because it kills your ability to step up. Herbert is at his best when he can climb the pocket and fire. Take that away, and even elite quarterbacks start playing survival ball. This is where the fan base debate gets loud. One side is going to say, that doesn't fix everything. And you're right, Daniels alone doesn't turn the O-line into a top unit. But as part of a bigger solution, he can be a key piece. Especially when you factor in the cap math. The Chargers can save $9.7 million if they cut Mekhi Becton. That money can turn into Daniels, and still leave room to keep building. And here's the thing, offensive line isn't sexy. It doesn't sell jerseys like a star receiver, but it wins games. If the Chargers hit on 2 or 3 interior pieces, Herbert stops improvising and starts commanding. And when he's commanding, you know what that looks like. Long drives, defenses getting gassed, and the Chargers controlling the game flow. But once you start talking about protecting Herbert, you run straight into the most dangerous temptation of the offseason. Because while some people want stability, others want fireworks. And the next name being floated is pure gasoline. There are certain names that shift the whole vibe the second they're mentioned. You can feel the fan base sit up, heart rate goes up. The offseason starts looking like a highlight reel. So when Tyreek Hill speculation started connecting him to the Chargers, it wasn't just another random idea. It was the kind of possibility that makes you picture the impossible, and then forces you to ask whether it's worth the price. Let's ground this first. This is talk, not a done deal. Hill was released, and analysts immediately started drawing lines to the Chargers because of Mike McDaniel and his history with Hill. On paper, you get it. Herbert has the arm strength to maximize that speed. Defenses have to back up. The field opens. The offense looks different. But this is where it gets risky. Hill is turning 32 in March. He's coming off a major knee injury with multiple torn ligaments. And even for a generational talent, time is undefeated. What are you actually buying? The Hill who terrifies secondaries every Sunday? Or a version fighting to get back to what he was? That's the question the front office has to answer with discipline, not emotion. Because while the fantasy is obvious, there's a strong argument on the other side. The Chargers already have real assets tied up at wideout. Quentin Johnston, Ladd McConkey, Trey Harris. And there's the possibility of Keenan Allen being back. The direction feels clear. Develop the young core, build chemistry, grow something that lasts. And yeah, Bolt fam is going to be split on this. One side wants the instant impact. SoFi Stadium rocking on 60-yard chunk plays. The other side looks long-term and says, is this where you spend when the interior O-line still needs help? Because it doesn't matter how fast your Ferrari is if the road is full of potholes. The other key detail? The Chargers don't feel desperate. That matters. Desperate teams overpay. Patient teams pick the right moment. And while everyone argues about the superstar angle, there's a decision happening in the shadows that might be the most important of the day. Because seasons don't just end when your starting quarterback goes down. They end when you don't have anybody you trust behind him. That's why Trey Lance deserves more attention than he's getting. Let me say this. When his name comes up, people still hear the hype from being the number 3 overall pick, and they remember he never fully locked down a starting job. That creates doubt. It creates jokes. But inside the Chargers building, the value is different. He's not being treated like a punchline. He's being treated like a strategic piece. He's still only 25. He still has traits you can't teach. And the biggest thing? He's already in the system. He knows the locker room. He knows the expectations. That kind of continuity matters, because the worst backups are the ones who have to learn everything while the season is on fire. Here's the tension nobody wants to think about. The market might not value him the way you'd assume. Other names are dominating the quarterback conversation. Lance is getting overlooked. And for once, that helps the Chargers, because when a useful player isn't a priority across the league, you have a real shot to keep him without getting dragged into a contract war. Sure, the dream is you never need QB2, but the NFL doesn't care about dreams. One awkward hit, one weird week, one stretch where you need stability, and suddenly the backup isn't a footnote. He's the reason your season stays alive. Flip it the other way. If Lance walks, you're starting from zero. New quarterback, new learning curve, new risk. So when you stack all 4 pieces together, you can see the shape of what the Chargers are trying to do. Denzel Martin screams, more technical pass rush, more consistent pressure. James Daniels, if the price is right, is the kind of move you don't celebrate on day one, until Herbert actually has time and the offense starts cooking. Tyreek Hill talk is the perfect temptation. Instant fireworks versus smart team building. And Trey Lance is the quiet insurance policy that keeps your season from collapsing when the league gets chaotic. And that promise from the start? The best off-seasons are the ones that cut risks before they buy dreams. So I'll ask you again, do you want patience or do you want all in? Drop your take in the comments, hit like, and make sure you're subscribed.